For the past 18 months, Troy has been rated the #1 contender for the International Boxing Federation light middleweight title, but has been denied the chance to contest the belt. In July, American Darren Van Horn lost a title defence against Italy's Gianfranco Rossi, seen here in the yellow trunks. Rossi was then ordered by the Federation to fight Waters. Troy says his 33-year-old opponent is no slouch, recording only 3 losses from 48 fights and 19 wins by clear knockout.
Well, he's very awkward, you know, he's an awkward type of fighter. He's got long arms, he's 5'9½", which is about 2 inches shorter than me, but he's got longer arms than me and he's awkward. He's a roughhouse sort of a fighter, but, you know, whatever he wants to throw at me, I'll throw back, and, you know, I've been waiting for 9.5 years for this chance and I'm not going to lose it. Once I'm in the boxing ring, it's for a world title, and but I'm going to bring the goods home.
Troy says he's put in some good sparring with one of Australia's boxing legends.
I spoke to Tony Mundine and, you know, we had a good couple of rounds, and, you know, Tony's lost none of his speed or his punching power, mate. You know, went 5 rounds with him and, you know, it did me the world of good.
However, Troy will leave for England on Thursday, where he will train for a week with European champion boxers before the October 27th fight at Italy's Grand Hotel Billia.
In the past, outdoor restaurants in the Hunter Mall have been officially frowned upon, with applicants facing a barrage of council regulations. But in an about-face, Newcastle Council now reasons outdoor eateries may be the key to the mall's viability.
Well, the mall won't survive unless we do something positive to improve its image. We're competing against the Garden City and also Charlestown, and regrettably the characteristics or the character of the mall is such that it's not competing very effectively.
Last night, Council adopted a report recommending a dramatic facelift for the Hunter Mall. Redesigned lighting, landscaping, new paving and high-quality street furniture are all on the drawing board. And the real draw card, outdoor eateries. With this, it seems Council has hit upon a winner with the public.
I like the idea, especially if you come out for a day's shopping.
You know, you really can relax when you're eating. I think it's a very good idea.
Oh, I think they're wonderful. And they're really interesting. I mean, you know, you can have what you like, and I think it's really nice to be outside. I think it's lovely.
Yes, yeah, overseas they have it. We've been over there, and it works over there, and I don't think we've got the climate and everything here. I don't see why it shouldn't work.
Clearly, the notion of a touch of Paris in the Hunter Mall whets the appetite of diners. Likewise, restaurateurs.
I think it'd be a tremendous idea. I think outdoor seating is the way to eat and way to enjoy yourself, and I think it'd be really good for the mall and bring the mall up to make it look like bring it up to a standard that Novacashans would be proud of.
We think it's great that more people will come into the mall.
The enthusiasm is there, all that remains is for that to be translated into viability. Council hopes the appealing mix of food and fresh air will see the development applications rolling in.
Sold for $5.8 million. Sold for $1.2 million. Sold for $445,000. It's a sign of what real estate agents are calling the rebirth of Newcastle business. In the past few weeks, Sydney investors have flocked to the city to buy up big. Newcastle agent David Nichols has had 10 businesses go under the hammer. Of those, 8 have gone to Sydney investors for prices ranging from $200,000 to an astronomical $5.8 million for the Lake Macquarie Business Centre.
Our office sold in excess of $10 million throughout the Hunter region last month, just under $10 million out of our Newcastle branch, and predominantly to Sydney investors.
Why are they coming to Newcastle?
Well, they're finding that the opportunities up here are greater than prevail in Sydney. The Sydney market's much tighter. The returns on offer down there aren't as good as you'll find in Newcastle. And you can buy a very good property in Newcastle under $1 million. Sydney, $1 million doesn't buy you very much at all.
In just about all cases, David says, the buyers are not looking to change the face of the business. In fact, he says most investors are looking for tenants that are planning to stay on. But despite the big move north, David says prices here in Newcastle for commercial businesses haven't gone through the roof, though he admits if the present demand continues, it could only be a matter of time.
You might see an increasing trend or a lowering of the yield once interest rates ease, and the reason for that is that we just can't keep up with the demand. The supply is not there.
The controversial abandonment of the Wesley Vale pulp mill project in Tasmania based on environmental grounds is seeing major pulp buyers bow to government and consumer pressure and search the world market for environmentally acceptable pulp supplies. A particularly sensitive issue is dioxin, a highly toxic byproduct from traditional paper bleaching processes. Dioxin can cause cancer, affect the liver and unborn children. Dioxin is causing a scare amongst consumers because traces of it have been found in paper towels, tissues, feminine hygiene and other products. Consumers were said to want brilliant white products obtainable only by traditional bleaching processes, but now it seems they're prepared to accept them in a more natural tint, achieved with less environmentally damaging methods. Retailers are beginning to stock those environmentally friendly lines. However, one major pulp buyer, Johnson & Johnson, says that consumers are being scared unnecessarily about the dioxin content in paper-based products. They say the dioxin levels in their sanitary products are safe and at 50 parts per trillion are 50,000 times below health regulations in the United States. Johnson & Johnson says the dominant reason unbleached products are appearing on the shelf is because worldwide governments are banning environmentally damaging paper pulping processes and manufacturers have no choice but to use those safer methods. Willie Lafitte for NBN News.
The former Secretary of the Aboriginal Affairs Department was a special guest today at the graduation of some of the Hunter's Aboriginal students who've completed a 6-month orientation and study skills course. For one day a month, the students have been attending the Wallatuka Aboriginal Centre at the Hunter Institute, being introduced to the workings of both the Institute and the Newcastle University, brushing up on their study skills and building motivation to go on with their education. Today, Mr Perkins continued that motivation, but didn't pass up the opportunity to air his disgust at what he says are the inadequacies in the system.
If you want to go there, you shouldn't have to pay for it, and certainly Aboriginal people shouldn't have to pay for it. A lot of them are going to University of New South Wales, Sydney University and the others throughout Australia, and finding it very difficult. They're dropping out halfway through. On $85 a week, all you can do is starve to death gracefully. That's all you can do.
In the Coalition's new tax policy released yesterday, provisions were made to slash Aboriginal education and training by $23 million, part of a $100 million cutback overall. Mr Perkins said he was appalled by the opposition's stand, but said it seemed like the typical reaction of the community at large.
We expect and demand an annual bloodbath in Aboriginal affairs where we're going to really tear it apart and denigrate everybody associated with it. And that's not the way to do it. We should encourage people who are in a very difficult, complex cultural situation to sort of work together and try to work out some solutions to problems and not highlight them in the way that they do all the time in the media and as politicians do in the Parliament.
Gunnedar's Alan Baker joins a top field of locals including Maitland's Stu Robinson and the Raymond Terrace driver Bob Brewer. These drivers will be out to win the winning streak of the brothers from the coalfields, John Pine of Curry and Cessnock's Ron Pine. The Pine brothers have won 5 of the first 6 races at the Motordrome this season. Modified road racing brought the crowd to their feet last weekend when Newcastle's Graham Edmund came within a whisker of beating the current state champion Tony Hopping. These two will resume their battle but will face a much tougher field as Tony's brother Steve, along with a very aggressive Sydney sider Barry Bundy, will also be racing. The newly formed Newcastle Limited Sprint Car Club will race against drivers from Sydney and Canberra. These sprint cars are only limited to using carburettors and do not use aluminium engines. The Australian Compact Speed Car champion Rod Bowen is set to test Peter Murphy, who won the Compact Speed Car feature a fortnight ago. Street stock sedans and stock cars are also on the program.
The merger of Hunter Valley Dairy Farmers and Shoalhaven Co-ops is round 1 of the fight to ward off competitors from Victoria and New Zealand. And new Chief Executive Don Kinnersley says more amalgamations are to come.
We are hopeful that the Norco Cooperative, who are planning to merge with the Queensco Cooperative in Queensland, will then come down and have a talk with us about it. And there are 2 other smaller cooperatives who are currently negotiating with us to come in.
The ultimate aim, a single super co-op for New South Wales. The new company will be called Australian Cooperative Foods, though the familiar brand names of Oak, Ski and Weight Watchers will all stay the same. Immediate benefits of the merger will be reduced costs and improved purchasing power, but it's not all good news.
Well, it's inevitable that there will be some factory closures. At this stage, we can't define them, or we can't define the job losses. We are hopeful that in most cases people will be able to be offered jobs in other areas, but there will certainly be some job losses in the Newcastle area, but we can't identify them yet.
Savings are believed to total millions of dollars per year, with initial annual sales estimated at around $400 million. The Hexham Oak factory will become the milk division centre for the northern region, while plants at Muswellbrook and Gloucester will now specialise in producing dairy concentrates. A second major local name change was also announced today. New Gas officially adopted the title the Natural Gas Company, now the unified name for all gas companies in New South Wales and the Capital Territory. Newcastle Gas Company also announced a $5 million plan to rebuild the distribution system between Curry and Cessnock. And a new 5-year plan is aimed at attracting new industry to the Hunter.
We are firmly committed to continuing to invest in this region. We believe that this region has the infrastructure, the workforce and the commitment to see a diversification in the industrial base such that Newcastle will be a blue chip investment for new energy intensive industries to locate in the Newcastle region.
Warner's Bay firm Cowan Manufacturing is building the portable recompression chamber, a unit used to treat victims of diving accidents. The US Navy wants this technology for 2 reasons. The lightweight unit overcomes the shortfall of traditional chambers in that it can be easily transported to an emergency environment. The second reason for the US interest is that America has accumulated a huge offset liability to the Australian government. We buy their technology on the understanding they'll do likewise. The directors of International Innovations Limited, The Sydney company, which has developed the portable chamber, say the Americans want 90 units at $200,000 apiece, $18 million worth of work based here at Warners Bay. But there's a major sticking point to the tune of $200,000. The company has run out of operating funds. Banks apparently aren't interested, and government schemes encouraging export development don't cover this situation. Alderman Ivan Welsh says time is running out if the Hunter region is to keep the work.
Well, now the deadline comes down to next Thursday because there are two directors of the company currently in America with the company which will assemble the units, and they've given an undertaking that if the money can't be found in Australia, they're quite happy to go ahead and do the whole job there. Obviously, if they do, that's by Australian workers and by the benefit to this country.
Special responsibilities allowance. We insisted they do that. It's interesting to note by making the working conditions for one group a lot worse than what they've.
For the past week, Garden City, in association with the Hunter Golf professionals, have run a single-hole competition using plastic golf balls for safety. 8 players had won the right to compete in today's final by scoring an ace earlier on. Up for grabs was a $1,000 open order from the centre, second prize was a $500 order and $250 was for third. The ladies had a little trouble hitting the target, but the boys showed some great golfing aptitude. Bruce White's second shot put the pressure on the others as it ended up 20 inches from the cup. Mark Lewis from Muswellbrook stepped up and coolly put his shot inside the distance set by White. 17.5 inches was going to be extremely hard to beat, but Mike Blair from Adamstown Heights wasn't fazed at all, and with one mighty swat lobbed the ball 16.5 inches from the hole to steal the major reward.
The fire started near the Cardiff Little Athletics Oval and quickly spread to nearby houses, fanned by strong northwesterly winds and fuelled by tinder dry bush. Firefighters had a difficult job to control the blaze as swirling wind pushed the fire in all directions. Residents of Ventura Place feared the worst and attended their own properties as well as keeping a watchful eye on the homes of absent neighbours. At one stage everything seemed to have settled down, but after a sudden gust the fire took off, almost trapping firemen and machinery. Flames skipped across the gully and worried householders gathered as many hoses as possible. Despite low water pressure, they were able to wet roofs and woodwork. For some, it was a harrowing few minutes.
Very frightening, yes. We've had the fire just at our back door. No hoses that'll reach. It's very frightening. The owner to this place isn't home. So, I don't know, cross our fingers and hope for the best.
One fireman suffered first-degree burns to his hand and the back of his neck and has been taken to Wallsend Hospital. At Main Road, Glendale, there was no danger to property, although one resident did receive a fright when a dry flower bed caught alight. Firefighters say the outbreaks are an indication of the looming danger this summer.
I cannot stress too fully that they must be careful when they're out in the bush. The fellow at the top of the hill did the right thing. He had a cleared area of about 30 feet around it and there was no danger to his house. Not so some of the other ones lower down.
From promoters of the Motordrome were thanking their lucky stars last night that the safety netting surrounding the track held fast. The Sydney driver Ron Cameron climbed the fence and came to rest back on the track.
Oh, these four cars up front are really putting on a tremendous dice. Andrew Cosdell, Ron Cameron over! Big one, up onto the wall, rips the light down, and what a crash!
Concerned officials raced to Cameron's assistance, but the compact speed car driver was okay and racing continued.
Residents admit traffic flow has improved since the introduction of the roundabout, but this, they say, has been at the expense of pedestrian safety. They're not satisfied with the pedestrian refuge immediately east of the intersection on Dudley Road, an arrangement which replaced a zebra crossing.
You're unprotected, it's on the curve, it's actually joined to the roundabout. It's on top of the pre-existing crossing, but the whole circumstances have changed since the roundabout's been included.
The residents point out that most pedestrians ignore the refuge, opting instead to take their chances on the more direct route between the shops and the car park. But Mrs. Ma says it's only a matter of time before someone is hurt.
What sort of response have you had from the council so far?
The engineering section is the section I've been speaking to. They're fairly non-responsive. They feel that pedestrian refuge is all that's required, and they feel that there is no need for a pedestrian crossing. They have an attitude that people feel will have a full sense of security on a crossing, but in fact you don't have any acknowledged rights at all because there's nothing marked, and apparently that's correct. It's not the motorist's responsibility in any way to care for the pedestrians. It's really up to the pedestrian to just get across.
This afternoon, the residents put their case to members of Lake Macquarie Council's Traffic Facilities Committee. They're lobbying for a pedestrian crossing, ideally with traffic lights, to link the shops and the car park, an arrangement they say will meet both safety and pedestrian flow needs.
Past locations for the championships sound like a list of the world's most exotic destinations. Bahamas, Brazil, Sardinia and now Lake Macquarie. For so long dubbed Australia's best-kept secret, in the sailing world at least, that secret is now out.
Sailing in general on Lake Macquarie is increasing dramatically, and world titles, it's been a very unknown place for a lot of people. Like, we've got the 505s in Toronto, which are world class. We've had a few titles of those out here, but anything else is really rarely unknown to Lake Macquarie. It's going to, I think, this regatta will put Lake Macquarie on the map. I really do, in the sailing world.
Greg Beecham from Belmont is just one of the Hunter's world-class competitors who aims to battle it out on a world record 51-kilometre marathon course around the lake against the best from over 15 different nations. And he agrees the competition will be stiff.
The world-class sailors that are sailing around Lake Macquarie, the Hunter region area, they're quite good. We've got Olympic representatives, we've got world champions, we've got state and Australian champions. But the major threat, I think, will come from a lot of the younger people that are sailing locally that are virtually unknown, but they're using myself and the other international competitors that are really sailing very hard against us. And every time we hit the water, there's always someone out there sailing behind us, trying to copy our styles, trying to just get that little bit more of an edge. And really, they are sailing very fast.
Today's launch at the Newcastle Permanent saw the announcement of an inaugural trophy for overall excellence. Ted Schweitzer, son of board sailing pioneer Hoyle, said his father will make a special trip to Australia to present the cup. Tens of thousands are expected to line the lake from Belmont, Wangi, Toronto and Warners Bay for the titles from December the 30th to January the 7th next year.